The following content has been provided by RWTH Aachen University.
The fourth approach, if we keep going without users, so we're still not involving users with all of these, is called model-based evaluation. It's called model-based because it uses one of the various models that exist in human-computer interaction as a framework to structure your evaluation. Here's a couple examples. GOMS and KLM, we will cover this in the next lecture, will come up separately. Or information efficiency. There's also something called the design rationale, which basically means writing down all the decisions you make throughout the design process, and then being able to later go back and understand why you made certain decisions. So next time you come into your next project, you can look at your rationale from your last project and follow those decisions there. Or HCI design patterns. Those are also going to be covered. I think we do this in current topics, but I'm going to show a quick preview here. I think that makes sense. Design patterns. Who here has heard of design patterns? Given that you guys are doing software, you should all have heard about software design patterns, right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Can you give me an example for a design pattern that you've heard about?
I think I will mix it up with other patterns.
That's okay. You're probably thinking about patterns from coding, right? Yeah, that's fine. That's what typically you have, like software coding patterns, implementation patterns are like the abstract factory pattern or the singleton pattern. Those kinds of things. A lot of people know these days. So that's software design patterns. What we're thinking about here is design patterns in HCI work a little differently. They basically capture interface design strategies, solutions. So here's an example for an interface design pattern that captures a way to design the interaction in an interactive meeting room. It has a name. In this case, the pattern is called social protocol. It has a ranking that says with 3 stars there that it's a fairly important one in the collection of patterns. It has an image, like somebody passing a remote mouse like to somebody else here to control the wall screen. This is sensitizing the problem. Then we have a context in which this pattern is applied. We have a problem description. For example, interactive technology likes to be told when something happens or when it's supposed to do something, but people easily forget that extra step, especially when in the middle of a high-energy brainstorming session. Then there's examples of how this problem can be addressed. And then finally, there's a solution to the problem here. And there is a sketch that illustrates the solution. And there may also be references to other patterns in the language. So HCI design patterns are basically a way to write down knowledge about good user interface design for a particular domain. For example, here, meeting rooms. And they're all structured in the same way. This is taken from a collection of patterns that I wrote a couple years ago. And they help us to quickly learn about a new domain and how to design good interfaces in that new domain. We find patterns in HCI actually fairly early on. As soon as sort of the psychology of everyday things actually talks about it in the extension. It says that patterns are a very nice way of capturing design experience. And you can find them in the Mac Human Interface Guidelines as well. And here's an example of a pattern language that I wrote many years ago on music exhibits, partly inspired by this work on personal orchestra, world beat, and those kinds of things. And you can see those are patterns that all tell you what to do in the interaction with the user. For example, to attract users into using an exhibit in a museum, engage them for a while, and then deliver a message and let them go. To design something for a cooperative experience so that not only one person can use an exhibit, but several people can. to make sure that you slowly reveal complexity over time so people don't get overwhelmed. It's called incremental revealing. To hide your hardware so that people aren't confused or scared by sort of complex devices, and to use, if possible, only one input device so people, especially at an exhibit, aren't overwhelmed with 15 different things they're supposed to be doing. There's more of those, and the idea for pattern languages is basically capture design knowledge in a particular domain. We'll talk more about pattern languages in current topics, also a lecture that comes up next semester, current topics in HCI. For now, keep in mind, if you are going to be designing for a new area, for example, your first mobile app or your first web application or something like this, there are very good books out there that use the pattern format these days, and that can teach you very quickly how to work, how to create good interfaces in a new sub-area.
This content was provided by RWTH Aachen University.